It's no secret that people flirt outside of their relationships with people who are not their partners. We see it every day, and maybe even do it ourselves from time to time, consciously or subconsciously. The question is, why do we do it? In his 2004 article titled Flirting with Meaning, Dr. David Henningsen states that there are 5 main reasons why people flirt: to engage in sexual contact, to develop relationships, to explore potential interests, to have fun, and to receive desired rewards. These 5 motivations help answer the question of why people in a relationship flirt with people who aren't their partner, even if they don't intend to pursue sexual or romantic relations with them. Understanding the importance of this question and knowing how flirting operates in one's own relationships has a variety of advantages we will soon uncover.
Flirting is attracting the attention of someone, and for someone to say they're flirting, or someone really needs to be recognizing that they're doing this on purpose. Sometimes people make gestures or have body language or say things that people don't identify as flirting, and then they're surprised when people are receiving it as flirting. But most of the time, people are very purposeful with it.
Right.
Flirting. Um, like just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, trying to draw attention
Yeah.
to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Some might call getting hit on or hitting on somebody else. Personally, I find it kind of entertaining when I see others doing it. But like I said, it's been a long time, and it depends on the situation too.
I guess you just want attention from that other person, whoever you're flirting with. You want attention.
Most of the time, flirting is kind of being playful, and there's an element of it being attracted to somebody, and most of the time it's I would say harmless, in that it's um, kind of amusing and a way for people to show that they're interested, either with eye contact, body language, um, verbal expressions, lots of different ways to kind of show a playful interest in some kind of connection. And I mean, it could be just a little light attraction that goes nowhere, or I mean, sometimes that is how relationships start.
While flirting is an ambiguous term, relative and subjective to each person's beliefs, it's important to give a general idea of what flirting consists of. An article published in the Journal of Business Communication by Dr. David Henningsen and his colleagues in 2008 defined flirting as ambiguous, goal-motivated behaviors that can be, but are not restricted to being, interpreted as sexually motivated. The relational framing theory is one theory that attempts to explain the motives behind flirting. In a 2010 study done by Dr. Brandy Frisbee and colleagues called Flirtatious Communication, an experimental examination of perceptions of social sexual communication motivated by evolutionary forces, the researchers made use of this theory. They found that flirting can be evaluated in terms of dominance and/or affiliativeness. These evaluations are expected to impact elements of mate attraction, selection, and retention. Flirting outside of the relationship can be an outlet for partners to display behavior that is not usually attributed to them. For example, since men often flirt with motivations that are considered dominant, being in a secure relationship may encourage them to try affiliative flirting behaviors with people outside of their relationship.
It's probably more typical that for men, it might be a way of asserting power or dominance. Like, I can catch somebody's eye and get them to look at me and think that I'm pretty cool. And for women, it might be more likely that they're maybe not getting the affiliative connection as much as they would like in their primary relationship, and the flirting allows for a little bit more of that.
It could be that they just really want to have the power over another person to see them respond to them. So that's probably what's behind that theory, the idea that, and a person, may flirt because they're insecure, so they need that affirmation from other people, being responsive to them. But within the relationship, the couples can flirt with each other, so that's a really important thing. So to really spark things up and to just be playful or fun, or just to remind themselves of where they started with their infatuation.
Social exchange theory is a perspective that explains social change and stability as a process of negotiated exchanges between parties. So it posits that our relationships with others are formed by the use of a cost-benefit analysis and the comparison of alternative options to us. It explains that if a person's comparison level of alternatives is higher than their current state, flirting outside the relationship can occur. It also explains that if a person's comparison level is higher than their current state, flirting outside the relationship can also occur. People flirt outside the relationship to prove reflexive control, which is the ability to take responsibility for one's own outcomes. Using the social exchange theory, one can get a sense of how the comparisons we make between our current partner and possible alternatives can affect our flirting.
Actually encourage, I work a lot with singles, and so when people are dating and single and meeting new people, I encourage them to be kind of, thinking about, well, what is it that I most want? What are the essential requirements that I need to be happy in a relationship? It depends where somebody is in their relationship history. If they're in a established, committed relationship, that is not a good time to be out there comparing and looking for somebody else. That is, a big red flag and obvious problem for the relationship. If they're just starting to date somebody and that's not exclusive yet, that's different.
We can also look at how gender might affect the different motivations behind flirting. While desire is innate in nature, and we as humans are subject to instinctive sexual desire triggered by certain criteria, there are differences in the way males versus females flirt, and their reactions to their partners flirting outside of their relationship or their marriage. In Hessingen's 2004 study, Flirting with Meaning, an examination of miscommunication in flirting interactions, he found that men tend to flirt to initiate sexual contact and perceive others flirting as sexual, while women tend to flirt to advance an existing relationship and simply to have fun. He found where the miscommunication was, as well. When women in established relationships first flirt with someone outside of the relationship, men tend to feel threatened since they perceive the partner's actions as sexually intended. In regards to the differences in reactions in flirtation, psychologists found that men tend to look at their partners in a more negative light after meeting a single, attractive woman, and women are more likely to work to strengthen their current relationships after meeting an available, attractive man.
I would say, probably the tradition is for men to be the ones initiating and coming up to a woman and trying to get something started, kind of being the leaders, being a little more direct in their approach, and women tend to be more often more subtle, less direct, maybe more indirect.
When it comes to gender differences in flirting, there's a common agreement towards a straightforward versus complex, or checkers versus chess difference. Most men tend to be very straightforward, whereas women tend to be more complex when flirting, playing a strategic game of chess. Another common difference is the physical versus emotional motivation. Men often look for a physical connection, while many women are out looking for a more emotional connection to build a relationship on, even at the simple stage of flirting. In a 2009 study conducted by Dr. Brandy Frisbee, titled "Without Flirting, It Wouldn't Be Marriage: Flirtatious Communication Between Relational Partners," the researcher was also looking into functions and motivations when flirting, both before and during marriage. She found similar results, the data revealing motivation differences between the sexes. She also found that prior to marriage, couples flirted to explore and reduce uncertainty within the relationship.
So, obviously men are going to do something different than women, but it's still, I'd say it's still flirting. So how would a man flirt? Try and start up a conversation.
They're trying to start up a conversation,
Get personal.
Mosey up to the bar and have a seat and, try and strike up a conversation. maybe offer to buy a drink, you know. Um, Women, on the other hand, it's kind of like if they're there to flirt, they get their spot at the bar, and they're generally dressed appropriately. Uh,
Bucknell University conducted 4 separate studies in 2015 to determine how men and women flirt and what actions are considered most effective. Researchers Joel Wade and Jennifer Slump found that men and women not only go about flirting in different ways, but the cues that they're looking for from one another differ as well. They point out the biological motivation for women to look for something long-term that results in offspring, and for men, biologically, they're looking for more sexual innuendos from women. In her 2015 Bustle article, Amanda Chattel dissects this study and comes up with 4 major differences between flirting of women versus men. 1. Men prefer flirting that involves touching. The study found that actions that are most effective to men involve physical touch, because these actions suggest openness to sexual relation. 2. Women prefer flirting that suggests commitment. This should come as no surprise, again, relating back to the basis of biology and the long-term needs of women when it comes to flirting. 3. Women have less flirtatious acts than men. The study found that men use 26 different techniques when trying to get a woman's attention, while women use only 14. And 4. Men are less guarded when it comes to flirting. Women put less out there and are more careful in how they present themselves when flirting. Flirting outside of a relationship can be in response to internal problems within the relationship, whether that be conscious or subconscious response. Flirting can be seen as a means of compensating for lack of compliments or attention in a marriage or a relationship. The need to feel desired. Often, when people are married, after a length of time, they may not get as many compliments from their spouse as they used to. Consequently, flirting with others outside of the relationship can be a way to compensate for this. The spouse may miss the carefree playfulness they used to experience when they were dating their honeymoon phase with their partner. While this doesn't mean that they are looking to cheat with the person they're flirting with, it can mean that there's something out of place in their marriage. People may also flirt outside of their relationship or marriage to prove something to their partner, to keep them from taking advantage of their relationship. It could also be in response to a lack of intimacy, both emotional and physical, within a relationship or a marriage.
Well, one, maybe their relationship isn't strong enough, or that there's something missing in that relationship.
yeah.
I guess third, there always could be the issue of substance, too much to drink or something. Inhibitions come out so people can flirt not really meaning to flirt, but because they've been drinking or whatever.
And some people just enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's a thrill element to it. Maybe sneaking
Like a
around.
tease or even a tease, like, okay, this is fun, and then I'm
Yeah.
going home.
Yeah.
I could be looking for connection. I mean, so often for women, they may not be feeling like they're getting the kind of emotional connection that they want, and they might be looking for that with somebody else. And more typically for men, they're wanting a physical connection, may not be getting in their relationship or marriage. Sometimes people are just bored, and there's an opportunity, and they want to play and have fun, and it might not ever lead to anything that would be a problem for the relationship. So there's a variety of factors that could go into it. So there's probably many reasons.
Flirting is an intriguing yet complicated concept within romantic relationships. In today's society, it may be unrealistic to expect a spouse or a partner to go as extreme as not even looking at or talking to another man or woman, especially in a culture that is surrounded by sexual depictions of males and females in every form of marketing and advertising. A study from the University of Georgia looked at sexual ads appearing in magazines over the past 30 years and found that they have increasingly become more popular and obviously more well accepted. It's important to understand why one's partner may flirt outside of the relationship to ensure a secure, successful relationship for the future. Understanding the communication that takes place within the flirting and how to communicate about flirting in general is key.
Communication. And they're all different styles of communication. I'm telling you what you know, but even if you're shy about things, whether it's intimate sexual communication, relationship communication is essential. You have different styles, and people will be more reserved, but there's some way you have to get across your needs, your desires, your response to other people.
By looking at the social exchange theory and relational framing theory, it was possible to find some explanations that are rooted in social constructs and theoretical implications relative to everyday life. Dissecting gender differences within flirting gave us insight on why a male or a female acts a certain way and the outcome they expect from their actions. Whether in a homosexual or heterosexual relationship, knowing the motives behind your partner's flirtation habits is key to a successful relationship. Additionally, being aware of the possibility of flirting as a response to relationship problems, whether consciously or subconsciously, is necessary when considering the possible explanations of why partners flirt outside of their relationships. Miscommunication is one of the biggest issues within romantic relationships. Flirting, in particular, is not an area that should suffer from this. If spouses are not on the same page when it comes to their definitions of flirting and understanding what degree of interaction is acceptable, problems such as trust issues and relationship insecurity are likely to occur. It's essential for a successful, secure relationship to have an understanding of this phenomenon and to communicate actively about flirting with your partner.